and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 681. CYRANO.
Oh God,
At least for Joe.
I feel like I am punished the week before something I really want to see comes out. Like it happened for Halloween, it happened for this,
And now next week, the hotly anticipated Turning Red.
Yeah, I can't wait. What a dumb move on their part. What are you thinking? I guess they're thinking that like,
What if we really do Turning Red instead of the Batman?
Okay, I'm in.
no.
I'd be good with it.
No.
I'd be
I
good
mean,
with it.
I'm down for it just to torture Joe. That sounds like a blast.
Oh my gosh, he's been waiting and highly. He just presumed. He's like,
I
yeah,
did. That's fair. That's
the
fair.
one
I
before
did,
the
yeah.
big one. Wait a minute, we haven't solidified.
Yeah,
this
you mean
yet.
Turning Red. That's what we're talking about.
I mean, it's Pixar. That's huge. Huge. So let's go around the non-virtual table, and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. Before we jump into Joe's favorite genre of film, the musical.
The period piece musical.
Yes.
Yeah. A double whammy.
Yes.
Do you need like 20 minutes for this? 2 weeks of show shares? Should we
Yeah,
start
it's
aside?
gonna be pretty. It's gonna be pretty.
Oh, good.
Pretty much
60 minutes of suck. Perfect. Not for our listeners, for the movie.
So where was I at? Oh, shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, TuneIn, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave a review behind for the people that come along after you. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. The group's a great place to just have movie chats. And it's called the League of Show Sharers because we're hoping you'll share an episode. So people who were kind enough to share an episode the last 2 weeks, I told you I'd make it up to you. Here we go. Chris Falls, Travis T. Witt, Chris Magic Man, Librarian Cynthia, Julianne Jordan, Edward Fairfax, Christopher Rex, Ralph Tribble, Gabriel Lugo, Heather Sachs, Tammy Sherman Powers, Tom Dowdy, Chris Williams, Minorities Report, Megan Kearns, Spoiler Piece Theater, Ryan Terry from the Forza Crowd podcast, In Session Film, Brad Hyan. Wait, was he on one of them?
No, you're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I'll say it.
Checks out.
Binge Movies, Nostalgia Cast, Geek to Me Radio, Feel and Film, James Install, Vertigay 314, Chris Wilson, the Manic Pixie Weirdo podcast, Mike and Oscar, B. Garner, Invasion of the Remake, Ronnie Castle, and Matt Neglia. So thank you very much for sharing an episode. We do greatly appreciate that. And also, lastly but not leastly, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 a month, you get all sorts of bonus content, and you help us out, and we like you more.
And starting March 10th, Matt F. Basler from the Matt F. Basler podcast, we are going to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're going to start
The movie, I hope.
all of them.
No, I just...
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
Yes. We're not going to recreate the Texas
Right.
Chainsaw Massacre.
Travel time will just be...
Tom, mark this as evidence.
Yeah.
All right. Delay that quick. No, we're going to... I don't know if we're going to do a movie by movie or timeline by timeline, but we are going to cover that series. That's the plan.
Sounds good.
From the Truth, Liberty, Freedom Pizza podcast.
So, anyway, there's all that. Let's dig in to CYRANO.
This sucks. Like, it's... I tried. I was like, I'm not going to distract myself. I'm going to make sure I watch this thing. And I hated it. I hated every second of it. Every
second of
I
it.
could not.
Even the parts that weren't musical?
Yeah, yes, because I knew what was coming.
Okay.
There's just another song behind that one. There's another one coming around the corner.
I don't know what's coming, but I'll tell you what's not coming. CYRANO.
Oh, man.
Look, it has been established that I'm willing to give. You can go look back at our text thread, and I was throwing anything against the wall that would stick to see if I didn't have to do this
it's
movie.
public. Our text thread is
Yeah,
public.
that's correct. Yeah, right. I would have, the Foo Fighters movie was getting good reviews, and I was like, can we just do that instead? And I got
62%, I think.
Hey,
I mean, it was.
I'll take it. But yeah, I just, this is not my jam. And if it is your jam, I'm sorry, but it's not mine. And
You own it. It's fair.
Yuck. With a side of yuck.
We don't want in a year from now Joe going, I loved it. I loved Cyrano.
I loved everything about it. It changed the genre.
Right? Things can change
in
over
my
time.
defense, I did enjoy the West Side Story. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't go into these trying to hate them.
Yeah. West Side Story is so freaking good. We've said it before,
Yeah.
but people are now sharing clips because I don't know if it's out on VOD in certain
it's coming.
places,
Yeah.
like certain territories, though, because there's HD clips going around and people praising it. And I'm just like, that movie's incredible.
Yeah.
It reminded me of how good it was.
Yeah,
really-
it was really good.
Yeah.
This was middling.
Oh,
yeah.
There are things to like in this movie.
up its own butt.
But there's first off, so I don't own skinny jeans. I don't have a pork pie hat. I don't have a tweed vest. So
Okay.
I am not familiar with the work of the National. But based on this movie,
What's
not a fan.
What's the National?
That's the band that wrote the songs
Oh,
for this movie, and they're very hipster. I'm
Oh.
drinking Coors, but ironically, not because I'm poor.
Coors Light.
So this
Yeah.
is like a Reznor, Atticus, this is like a band trying.
Easy lemon
No.
squeezy. What are we saying here?
The concept is like a band coming in and doing a score, like
Okay.
bands coming to.
But it's
Okay.
not the score. I mean, the songs, the words.
No,
and
that's true. That's you're right. I just
Yeah.
mean that bands becoming
Right.
composers.
It's like when Elton John wrote the songs for Lion King, except those were good.
Wait,
I thought you were
yeah.
going to say to his own movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all, because you're mentioning, we're talking about Foo Fighters, talking about all these different bands that
Yeah.
have done, work with different films.
Oh, sure.
This is like
Phil Collins.
This is like the Nationals version of Phantom of the Park.
There you go.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like, okay, Phantom, okay, check, of the, okay, that's several options. And you
Park.
went with Park. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I see where you're
that's-
going here.
yeah, that's
it's a
perfect.
whole journey trying to figure out where that's going to land.
who is this for real? And I don't like being that, who is
Well, I mean,
asking
this is
for
one of the classic stories of all time.
and anything you've seen, you watch this movie and you're like, oh, this is the thing that everybody has copied.
You've seen this story
This is,
over
this
and
is,
Yeah,
a, this
I
is a
mean-
John Hughes movie in 1980.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
it was, obviously Steve Martin's Roxanne.
Yeah.
Is this story? I mean, there was an episode of the Brady Bunch that riffs on this.
Oh,
concept.
really?
Yeah,
But also the story at its core, the best friend who loves the woman, but the
Yeah.
woman's in love with somebody else.
Right.
And then he has to help her, in her
Yeah,
relationship.
this
be
is
with the
a
other guy.
this is a 2000s teen comedy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we've seen this.
which is
well,
why
and those are
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's I don't know how you say friend zoned in French, but French zoned.
I like
French
that they.
is- no, that's very different.
Yeah,
I
it's a
like that
very
they
different
didn't go
thing.
with French accents.
But it's weird that they went with British accents.
Well,
Kevin's like, okay, that's indefensible.
I wish-
I want to defend it, but I have nothing to say.
I just didn't want to hear bad French accents because them
Agreed.
attempting to do that and singing and everything.
I just think it's funny that for Americans, whenever it's it's like old timey and courtly, it doesn't
them
matter
British.
where it takes place. Give them a British accent.
It's the only one that Americans are like, no, I get that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fancy. They're fancy. Okay,
right.
So on paper, if you dissect all these little things, there's a lot to detract. I
There is.
totally get
There's
it.
a lot to like in this movie.
But
too.
I also exactly. And so
Let's start with its premise.
Yeah.
I like Cyrano has always been he has a large nose,
Right.
and it's always some crazy prosthetic and so I like the idea of flipping that on its head and finding a different physical trait that causes him to have low self-esteem and feel ostracized,
Sure,
right? And
sure.
so
But it also takes away from the ridiculousness, right?
it does
So-
because so when this play came out it was the 1500s or something, and so putting a prosthetic nose on somebody, ultimately it was really just more of a metaphor for he had some physical trait that wasn't deemed
Cool or
the art-
attractive.
the art-
that didn't fit the beauty standards of the day, right?
and it blended in with the stage aesthetic, of big
and
noses.
you need
and-
something that would be very
Right.
visible from a distance.
That's fair.
in a live stage performance, So I like the idea of like, oh, we'll make it a little person, especially because Peter Dinklage is great.
Sure.
And-
that
and
dude's an
so
amazing actor.
I just thought that was a really clever way to
cast him in this role.
to incorporate him.
Is he? I think he's playing the Toxic Avenger.
Oh, I
I
don't
think
know.
they're.
I know he's
In
in
a
it,
TV
but is he
show or
playing
something?
I
it?
think it's I don't know what it is, but either way,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
do that.
down, man. I'm down. But so I thought that's really clever.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I heard an interview with him on Mark Maron's podcast, and he was talking about how he liked the fact that they didn't just swap out being a little person for the nose. And I'm just like, what movie did you see?
That's
Yeah.
exactly
Like,
what they did.
That's exactly what they did.
And I
Like,
thought that was kind of the cleverness of it.
Right,
Was that
like-
you didn't have to rewrite hardly anything to
Yeah.
have, like, you're a freak. And obviously, I'm not
right,
condoning it, but
like,
but
yeah.
for them to be hurling insults instead of a big nose, people at that time, the way they treated other people,
Right.
saying like you're a freak, you didn't hardly have to change it, and that was what's so clever.
Totally. So like, I was really mystified
Yeah.
by that comment because I'm like, that's
exactly what they did.
yeah. And
Maybe the
again,
musical aspect he was saying was so different. Maybe that he liked that it
I
wasn't.
know
just
he
a-
said flat. I like the fact that they didn't swap out this for that, and I'm
Oh.
just like, but they, but they did.
That's the
okay.
one thing they. Well, I guess they swapped out another
I
thing.
mean, he
but-
even quote unquote uses the M word at the end of the movie, right? Like,
does he?
yeah, he says that they would never accept her, yeah,
Oh,
with me for that, and at the very in the very last scene he says it. So
man, I don't remember that at all.
yeah,
But
Okay.
that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah, but so I like the premise. I like the setup.
It's a timeless story.
It's
I'll
a
give you
good
that.
looking movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, with all that being said, the big problem, I think, as a fan of musicals and someone that really, truly enjoys them, and I know Tom does too, I couldn't tell you one song. There's not one memorable
There's
song.
one good song in this, and it's the one when they're going into battle.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's not
Oh,
good songs.
yeah.
Like, that is a good song, but
Where they're going into
memorable,
battle, or where they're getting the letters.
Well, the letters as they're
Yeah.
getting ready
Sure,
to go
sure,
into battle.
sure. Okay,
It's the
okay.
same.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I thought too. I'm like, oh, this is good.
I was
But-
like, oh, finally a good
right?
song.
But
Like,
I could not
that's-
hum a bar. I
Yeah.
could not repeat a lyric or word. When I was watching it, I was enjoying it, so they were effective in getting me through the story.
But they were those kind of songs, and like I know people love Les Mis, but like you're wrong.
I do love what it is.
But like the song, I mean, it's spectacle, right? Like that's a really cool musical to see.
Sure.
But like, whew, it overstays its welcome. And the songs in Les Mis to me always sound like they're making them up on the spot.
Because
Like
they're
it's always
just-
and like there's in the same thing with this movie. I was like, are they going out of their way to not have a melody? Like there were times when, as someone who can't write a song, I was like, no. The music should be like ba 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 da. Like then you'd have a
sure,
melody.
sure.
But you like go ba da ba da ba da ba.
You're
ba,
100% right,
Yeah.
because when I'm watching this, I'm thinking the lyrics do not match up with the song they're playing.
Yeah.
They don't work, not all the time. There were a couple where you're like, oh, okay, but that was a problem throughout this entire
I think
film.
some of it is the type of singers the three main actors are, right?
Yeah.
Because like when you get to that one song that's good,
It's not them singing.
they don't
Right.
effing sing it.
Yeah.
Like it's other people singing it.
well,
and
what
so
do we know that gal from? Didn't we
yeah,
just
she was
see
in
her
the
in
Netflix
something?
stuff. Yeah, no, the Tom Holland, The Devil All the Time.
Oh,
and she
she's
was
the
in,
sister.
and she was in the other Hillbilly Elegy.
Okay, that's right.
Haley Bennett,
Haley
yeah.
Bennett.
Who always reminds me of like the lead singer of Evanescence or something. What's her name?
Amy Lee.
Amy Lee.
No, what's the other one? Then there's another band in that
I was
style.
like, there's only
where
one
they're-
singer of Evanescence.
No, yeah. there's a rock band or something. that has-
Paramore?
what's her name?
Haley Williams.
Yeah, I just for some reason I get Haley Bennett because that also sounds like a rock band lead singer name.
That's fair.
And
That's
so when
fair.
I hear the name, I get them confused. Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
But yeah, the songs in this are pretty brutal. They sound made up on the spot.
I think the acting's really good.
The acting's good. It's a good looking movie.
Kelvin Harrison Jr. I think has the best voice. When he started singing,
Is that the dude? The other
yeah,
guy?
the love
Yeah.
interest.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's in a movie called Waves. Did you ever see Waves?
Oh, Waves
I'm
is
thinking
so
you didn't.
good.
Waves is
It's a gut punch of
Just-
a movie. It's like Requiem for a Dream.
Oh,
like it's
that
great,
style.
but you're never gonna want to watch it again.
phenomenal, though. I saw it at the St. Louis Film Festival. I don't know. Were you there? Or did
No,
you go?
I watched a screener.
What- okay. I watched that at the St. Louis Film Festival on the big screen, knew nothing about it. This film, it's done in 3 acts, 3 different points of time. The storytelling transitions in a way you've never seen before, but also the aspect ratios change.
Yeah.
They
per act.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
has to do with the story and the characters and what's happening,
Yeah.
and then the aspect ratio. It is a phenomenal.
Like, I don't know
experience of
why that movie didn't just suck up all the awards.
Is it up? Was it from this year or from
It was
last
from
year?
last year.
Okay.
Yeah. But I just don't think people watch, like the Academy members. I don't think enough people watched it because if
Yeah.
you watched that thing,
It was really good.
so C Waves, he's the lead character. I mean, there's several leads in the film, but it starts off about
Remind me
him.
before you leave, Joe. I might still have a screen.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out.
But it is a phenomenal film if you have not seen it. So check it out. But anyway, when he started singing, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, he's got a great voice.
Yeah.
Like the others weren't terrible, but it was like, okay, he's done some singing.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage is not very
Yeah.
good. And
But it,
He's
like,
talk.
yeah,
yeah, doing
exaggerating
that
the
talk
talk-
sing
talk
kind of
sing,
thing.
yeah.
And Haley Bennett was going for it.
yeah. Well, and she
She can sing though,
her
right?
and Peter
Well, she's the
Dinklage,
lead singer of Paramore.
Yeah, right.
her and Peter Dinklage were in the stage version.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
so, one of the other problems I had with the film, and this is just nitpicking to some degree, but like, so when the premise of the film is that like one of your main characters is really bad at formulating his thoughts, so bad that he, entrusts someone else to do it on his behalf. Perhaps having him break into song
Where he's singing all his thoughts.
isn't the best.
So
way,
this
like-
is not typically a musical, right?
No, this is the
But they turn
cleverness
this
of
into
it,
a musical for this movie.
yeah.
Correct.
This is the
Okay.
this
Hamilton. I don't, but I guess Hamilton
Yeah,
was a
but
musical.
it is as much of a, I don't want to say a stunt because it's cool and an effective storytelling method, but it's as jarring as Romeo and Juliet having handguns and being set in L.A. Like doing a musical of this is the big attraction.
Did I ever
to
tell
it.
you that story about?
Oh,
Of
no.
Romeo and Juliet?
Well, yes, of Romeo and
In
Juliet.
Fair Verona, where our story lay.
Yeah.
So that came out in '97,
Yeah,
I think, because I was a freshman in high school.
6 or 7. But
I was either way. I
one-
was a freshman in high school. So you see the trailer, and they don't give you any idea that it is
Shakespeare.
in Shakespeare,
Yeah.
right? You're just like, okay, Claire Danes,
Yeah.
Oh,
they're playing
Leonardo
Pentameter.
DiCaprio.
They're playing
like,
an Everclear song.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Oh, that's
Romeo, an
hilarious.
updated version of Romeo. I'm in.
Which is
girls
the
want to go
same-
see this. I will go see this.
Which
That's
is the
fine.
same as Joe showing up for a musical and not knowing it's
Correct.
a musical. See, it's
you
the
mean
same.
like Into the Woods?
I'm right there with you with Shakespeare. I hate it. It is so frustrating because when we had to do it in school, like when they would break down the plots in class, and I was like, oh, this is really good.
Agreed.
He should have had someone else write it. I mean,
Do you think Shakespeare's the same person?
You mean like it's just one guy, multiple people?
Yeah, do you think it's one or is it a bunch
I
of
mean,
people? That
knowing almost nothing about it, really, but just logically, my gut tells me yes.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Who
is that
gives
is that
up
a theory?
ownership of things?
Yeah, it's a
like
theory.
who would consolidate other people? Like, what's the end game there? Like,
Yeah.
I just tend to think yes.
Like the Dread Pirate Roberts of writing or something. It's just, I don't know why, but that's a theory that some speculate because of, the scholars. I couldn't tell you why, but the way certain things are written in different periods have a completely different, I don't know.
Interesting. But yeah, like I remember sitting down in that theater and that movie starts and I was like, oh, you sons of bitches.
Yeah. And that's, I
Like,
bet that's
ugh.
a clip we could take from earlier episodes when we tricked him into
It
watching
was.
musicals.
I
He says
remember
the
sitting down for Into the Woods,
See?
and I had no
And he
no
did-
idea. And that thing starts, and Emily Blunt starts singing, and I was like, "Son of a!
I love
I
it.
gotta watch this whole thing now." And it's terrible because James Corden is the worst.
Well, good job. I love you. Just proved my whole theory.
Yeah,
Full circle.
No,
That
you
was great.
I totally remember that. Like walking into that and be like, "Oh, okay, this looks like a fun little thing."
Yeah.
And then it starts, and I was like, "Ah, Christ."
So for people that haven't seen the other movies or adaptations, Roxanne. So the story.
Cyrano is this character who he's he's quick witted and he's funny and his words are eloquent.
He's a Renaissance man, and he's perfect in every way.
Except that obviously in the original stuff he has a large nose. In this,
Which
one,
I
it's-
looked up. This play came out in 1897. I really thought it
Wow.
was from like the 1500s or something.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But it's from 18. So it's a lot newer than I would have thought.
And then in this, obviously, it's Peter Dinklage. and he is in love with I almost called her Roxanne. Oh wait, is that her
is
name?
Roxanne.
That
Yeah.
makes more sense. All right.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's just funny because it's the name of that Steve Martin movie.
Perfect.
But that makes more
That's
sense.
why.
Yes.
And his character's name in that movie is C.D. Bales, right? C.D.
Oh,
Bales,
is it really?
Cinema
That's
Divergent.
pretty
See what
good.
they did there.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
You should see that movie.
Is it good?
It is so good.
Okay.
It is so good.
I do love Steve Martin.
Yes, it is so good. And the way they incorporate things from Cyrano it's just
Who's the love interest in that? Is it Mary Steenburgen?
No. It's Daryl Hannah. She plays Roxanne.
That makes more sense.
And and I mean they even incorporate fencing kind of.
Oh, okay.
Like
okay.
and you get the scene, like a version of the scene in this one where he's crashing the musical or the theatrical performance,
Yeah.
and he's basically doing all the insults before the guy can do the insults. You get a scene
God,
like that.
that sounds amazing.
Oh my God,
Watching Steve Martin do that would be
Roxanne
wonderful.
is so good.
Okay.
I think that's what I know this story from. I
That's
think Roxanne's
definitely-
the first
yeah.
time that I ever was introduced to this. And it's been a long time since I've seen it. But
Right.
yeah.
But yeah, so he is in love with Roxanne, but Roxanne.
But she won't turn on the red light.
Don't turn on the red light.
She doesn't have to.
Doesn't have
She
to.
doesn't have to turn
That's
on the red
right,
light.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Well, she definitely puts on the red light
Puts
to
on-
his romance plans, that's for sure.
Big time.
No yellow light there.
None whatsoever. So, but she is in love with this other character, and I can't remember his name either.
Which is very much a Romeo and Juliet type of love at first sight situation.
Yeah,
right?
immediately.
And in that movie, the Baz Luhrmann 1996, I verified film, the room stops. There's a big party going on.
Yeah,
but
it's
everything freezes.
It's a crazy scene.
And so
Yeah.
it's the same kind of situation where they see one another and instantly love at first sight, but they don't know one another. He's just a
He's like
army
just a-
recruit
just a
guy,
dude,
just
yeah.
a guy, and she's from nobility, and so she's supposed to marry, obviously, with her station and have
we
two
haven't talked
families.
about Ben Mendelsohn in this movie.
Ben
who
Mendelsohn's in
is
this movie.
almost unrecognizable, and then
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was in it until I heard him talk, and I was like, "Is that
Yeah,
Ben Mendelsohn?"
I love Ben Mendelsohn.
I do too.
I don't know that he did anything for me in this role. I mean,
He's under
serviceable,
about a pound of makeup and a massive costume.
but I don't think he brought particular singing talents or anything.
No,
to
I,
it to
I will
where-
say I think he is really good at that, like under the covers menacing villain. I think he is a brilliant like.
Oh God, Rogue One, he's so.
That's
freaking
what I'm
good.
saying though, right? Like, and he's he's kind of doing a Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards in that movie. But in this one, there is an underlying menace to him, like that when she reads the letter about like.
God.
He's like, you can either marry him, you can wait for me, we'll get married, or I'm coming and I'm going to have sex with you whether you
Right.
want to do it or not. And
But he
like,
says it in an eloquent way to where he doesn't
Right.
flat out say it, but he's like, "Oh, we will celebrate this without the vows of blah blah blah,"
Yeah.
like, which
So,
you're
like,
basically
he is. I think he is a brilliant actor. If you
Yeah,
haven't
acting-wise.
seen The Outsider, I
Yeah.
highly recommend that. That's really good.
Oh, he's good in everything though. He was the first thing that I saw him in that I think where I really noticed him was he was in The Place Beyond the Pines where he was
Was he the cop?
with him and God. No, he wasn't a cop. He was a guy in a trailer that kind of befriends. He's like friends with the Ryan Gosling character, I think.
Okay,
He's a phenomenal.
I think
actor.
he's going to be a big player in the MCU coming up.
Oh, you think? I
do.
keep waiting for him to come back, and ever since
I think he's going to be Secret Invasion and all that's leading.
Okay.
I think he's.
that's
gonna be
cool. I'm happy for him to come back. I keep waiting for him to transform into someone else.
Get that money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our other character just cannot get the words to express to Roxanne how he feels.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I think what else is really cool about this story, though, is look at this. Like, he's, at least my interpretation, he's good looking. He can sing. He seems healthy and
You mean
whatever.
the other character?
The Kelvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
character.
Christian Danger.
Christian.
Yeah.
Christian.
Thank you. So, Kelvin Harrison Jr., he has all this going for him, but he can't write lovely poetry.
Yeah.
So look at how but it's looks, right? He's not
Sure.
looked down upon because of his looks. He's handsome, good-looking guy. Cyrano's looked down upon because he's short. So you're just switching one shortcoming for another, but look how much crap he gets, which is really sad because, look, everyone has certain things that they don't do well, but that doesn't make them any less valuable,
Yeah.
any less good of a person, and any less deserving of love, which is
Sure.
the story's whole point. So I think that's kind of cool how you see different people that are good at a lot of things, but one thing's missing.
It is. I mean, I think we'd be remiss to say that Christian is a black man in the 1800s, which
But this is colorblind
casting.
No. Totally. Like everything is different.
Like in a more historically accurate
That's what
thing,
I'm saying.
that would be a mitigating factor
Right.
for his societal acceptance, but that's not what we're doing.
No.
here.
Yeah,
We just have to let the audience that hasn't seen it know
Let
that
it
it's
roll.
not
they
part
don't
of
play.
the story.
It's not
Right.
part of the story at all.
Because that could be hard to follow. Because if you haven't seen it and you're thinking like, oh, it's like that's his thing, is he? But
Right.
no,
But there is no thing. He has no thing.
There's
Except that
another.
he can't write.
There's another like a captain, Cyrano's friend,
Cyrano's buddy, yeah.
is in the army with him and it has a higher station. He's a black man as well, but again, that's not accurate to the time.
No. So Cyrano and Christian end up coming face to face in this like circle of death. I don't know what they were trying to do, but like Cyrano, like he challenged, like somehow they're going to fight. At this point, I guess Christian, he knows. Cyrano asks Christian his name. He says, and he realizes that, like, oh Christ, like this is the
it's the
one
guy
that Roxanne is in love with.
So
and
we
I
saw
can't kill
Cyrano
him.
earlier. We should say kill the guy at the opera. He had banished this guy from the opera house for a month,
Right.
And this guy came back to perform. And Cyrano's like, "I'm giving you the chance to get off the stage." He's like, "No, people want to
Basically,
see
you
me."
suck.
Yeah, and so they basically
It's an extreme form of heckling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're introduced to Cyrano's poetry and how good he is with words, and ends up the guy is going to be off the stage, and then a patron.
That was
theater.
Ben Mendelsohn's like right hand man, wasn't it?
Oh, I didn't get that connection.
I
was
think
it?
that
Is
it
that why
was.
he's so mad about everything?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But anyway, he challenges Cyrano, and we see how good of a fighter Cyrano is.
I did like this scene.
It was
Yeah.
Like I like seeing
The
Peter
action
Dinklage.
stuff.
Yeah, Peter
Yeah.
Dinklage like move around and like
really
he's
good.
you know
Tyrion in Game of Thrones.
I was thinking
mean,
the same thing.
He's
Yeah,
got the experience with swordplay and everything. So we see how good of a fighter he is, and so then he challenges the new recruit, and they are basically getting hazed. It's like a hazing type ritual.
Yeah.
But the new recruit actually. What's
says
his
his
name?
name.
Nathan. What's his name?
Christian.
Sorry. Christian actually insults Cyrano.
Yes.
And so that's where it becomes like a
Cyrano's
challenge
going to take him out.
to the death because he's insulted his honor, just like the patron guy did and challenged him to a duel.
Right.
So Cyrano would have killed him, but what's
He
your
realizes
name?
who he is. And
He says, "I like to know
"Embrace
the name
me."
of the people that I kill."
Yeah,
He really
right.
is going to kill him. He says that I'm
And then,
Christian.
I'm Roxanne's brother.
And I like
is
this.
what he ends up.
Embrace me.
Embrace
Everyone's
me.
waiting for a duel to the death, and he says, "Embrace me," and he's like, "Hey, what, sir?"
What? So Cyrano takes it upon himself. He's like, look, if I can't have her, like at least I'll make her.
Well, he thinks that
it is
he
kind
can
of like
still.
that's
he thinks
right.
that
Like
his-
that's the ulterior motive. Is like my words.
His words are the ones making her fall in love, so therefore he's still doing it.
Right.
And eventually he's just saying, well, better than nothing. Maybe it will work out. But
Right. Maybe it doesn't.
Maybe before it's too late. Maybe
It
not.
does. It doesn't. Spoilers.
It's the original catfish
That's exactly right.
and the first cup.
It's yeah.
But there are so many stories that do this where the best friend who's of the opposite sex comes to the person and I'm so in love. Oh, yeah,
Right.
tell me more.
Well, it's
Oh,
also,
it's this other
I was
guy,
thinking,
and-
like, as I'm watching this, do you remember the movie She's All That?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the same thing, right? Where they take, like, Freddie Prinze Jr. as the high school quarterback, whatever, and makes Rachel Lee Cook, who was, like, the nerd into the hot girl. Like, it's kind
I just
of
always think of Not Another Teen Movie.
also great.
Right.
Yeah. Walking away with the, yeah. Chris Evans, baby.
Chris Evans,
Yeah.
before anyone knew who the hell that was.
That was a star-making role.
Yeah.
Literally. With a banana in his butt.
That's
Yeah.
what you're into. That could be very star
Hey,
making.
you do you, man. Again, no shame. Whatever you're into. So he starts writing these letters.
And I love this, how he just pulls out a letter, put your name on the bottom of this. He says, you just carry love letters with you?
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah.
you never know who you can run into.
Yeah, right.
I love that. I have one prepared every day.
That's pretty. But they're all for her, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes,
they're all for her.
He's really writing her because he loves her, and he's got this letter already in this case, and so he just said, stick your name on the bottom.
Yeah, just,
But it
This is what people did before smartphones.
I know. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Dinklage is so good with his acting. Like we said, his performance is phenomenal in this, and his humor, the way that, like he did as Tyrion in Game of Thrones, he has a way of this under-delivered.
It's a dry wit.
Yeah, but
that
it's so good. It's so sharp, right? Tyrion was supposed to be very intellectual.
Mhm.
Cyrano's also intellectual, and so he's perfect casting for these characters, which is another great reason why they were able to change this adaptation and get him in there.
Sure.
I mean, you felt the hurt, you felt the smart-ass nature of him, everything that you felt.
What did I see? What was the first thing? Was it the station agent?
That's the first time I remember seeing him was the station agent.
Death at a Funeral was the first time I saw him, the original.
Yeah,
The
but
British.
both. He's in both.
Right, but
Yeah,
I
the
saw
British one
the original in theaters,
which is great.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think I saw it at Tivoli.
But I think it was the station agent was the first time I saw him.
I've never seen Station Agent.
That's
Oh,
pretty
it's
good.
really good.
That's really good.
What is that about? Just brief.
He like mans this like train
Right, that's what
station,
it
like
is.
kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
and
Yeah.
he's in love with this girl, and
Uh-oh.
you know,
Does he sing to her?
no,
Write her poetry.
no.
Okay, so very different. Got
But
it.
but yeah, it's very like
very
quiet,
independent, very
art house kind of
British
movie.
independent
Oh,
flick.
I got to see that then.
It's really good.
I've heard
I
of
remember.
it.
I remember it popping up at Blockbuster, and I was like, "Oh, watch it."
I remember watching the station agent and thinking, this guy is so good. It's a shame he'll never be in another movie, right? Because I'm just like, oh, how many movies are out there for this guy,
Elf.
right?
And
Like
I don't
it's-
mean that as a joke. Like
yeah,
that's
it's gonna all be stuff like that, and I
Yeah.
just thought like, oh, this guy's so good, and he's gonna end up being like the wacky punchline because of his height,
Right.
And I was so glad when he started popping up and things, and I'm like, oh, he's figuring out a way to do this and not have to go down that kind of,
oh sure.
the minstrel type role
That scene
for
in Elf
little
is
people.
Call me
Yeah.
an elf,
But
one more time.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm so grateful that people cast him in these roles, and again, like Ignoring Color in certain time periods, they don't mention his height in a lot of his film roles. Right?
Right.
He's just an actor. an
Yeah, what's
exceptional
that Vin
actor.
Diesel movie where he's a gangster on trial and
Guilty.
Peter
Guilty as no.
No.
Call Me Guilty, Find Me Guilty.
Find Me Guilty,
Yeah,
I think.
and Peter Dinklage plays the prosecuting
Yeah.
attorney.
Mm-hmm.
They never once reference his height. Not
No.
one time. Like he just comes in as the prosecuting attorney and owns it.
When he walks in at Death at a Funeral, and you get the explanation as to why he's there, it is brilliant.
It is. That's a hilarious movie. Again, if you see both of them, they're both really
Yeah,
good.
they're both
but both versions are hilarious,
Uh-huh.
and I can't recommend them highly enough. Where I was worried about the remake because I'm like, oh, they're doing the foreign movie is really popular in the art house
Right.
circuit.
Right.
Let's make it into an American film, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna make it worse, and they're both great. So. But anyway, so back to the story. So he's writing love letters. They get into a funny situation where
She is like on the balcony,
Yeah.
and he is standing
again, a very Romeo and Juliet. A lot
Yeah.
of this story has a lot of the
standing below, and she's like, "Tell me something. Speak to me like you speak to me in your letters." And he was like,
Yeah.
you're cool.
And this
You
is
got a fun face."
and this is after
Nice
she's
cans.
Well, and they are on display.
she's done with him at this point because after a few letters going back and forth, Christian's like, "Hey, I got this. I'm sorry. I mean, I appreciate your help, but I don't need you anymore." Straight up sends him away.
Pulls
He
an Aladdin.
Goes to talk to her, and he's like, yeah.
I can't do it.
And she's pissed, and she goes into a song about I need more than just saying I love you, because in the scene before this, Ben Mendelsohn said I love you.
Right.
So that is not enough
I gotta
alone.
tell you though. So when I saw this, she was like, "I need more." I was like, "Women, like you pour your heart out, and you can't, and I just need more." But that makes more sense.
The
Ben
point of the
Mendelsohn is
story
just
was
like,
that anyone can throw the words around "I love you." You've got this terrible guy that is on the
Right.
verge of, like you said, later is just going to rape her.
I mean,
if she
he
doesn't marry
openly
him.
says, like, yes.
So he said, "I love you." So what does that mean? It's more than those three words. Like
Right.
she sings. So I really liked that song lyrically, like what it was saying. It
Yeah.
fit well. But anyway, so then he's like, "But I love you," and she's like, "Okay, peace out." A lot
Yeah.
of people say that. And then he goes to the balcony, and in this scene, she's like, he basically, Cyrano's doing poetry.
Cyrano's off to it's an archway,
Yeah.
and Christian was on one side, Cyrano was on the other, and then so
and
Christian.
they address, why does your voice get down an octave?
Well,
like,
he at first Cyrano was just like he's reciting everything that Cyrano was saying, and then it was moving too fast. He couldn't keep up, so he goes to one side, and then Cyrano starts speaking, and she's like, "Hey, your voice changed." He's like, "Well, this is my real voice.
I'm
This
an
is
artist."
I'm glad they addressed that, because I was like, but
They
even
sound
then, like,
completely
how is she
different.
not recognizing
No.
his voice? She's been friends with him
Since they were children. Right.
it's silly, but they needed to address it. If they were going to do it, it had to be
Yeah,
at
at least they gave you something to hang your hat on.
Right.
Of okay.
It's at nighttime. She can't see either one. It's a dark.
There is like a shadow
Entryway.
over the archway.
Women weren't very well educated back then.
So he's doing.
it's
So Cyrano's doing poetry, and Christian's seeing that's working, and like a dummy, he jumps in again and just like, "Give me a kiss." And Cyrano's like, "No."
He's like,
no.
"Whoa, pump the brakes!"
And then she's like, "Come get this kiss."
yeah.
and he was like, "Okay."
He's like, "I don't know what to say."
Go, you jerk!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's what you do.
Yeah, it's like it's like the it's like the French court equivalent of like an unsolicited right?
That's
like,
exactly right.
You're moving
this is
too
an
quick.
1800s unsolicited. Yes, right.
Every
right.
once in a
Did
while,
I
it
ask
might
for
work.
that? I didn't ask for that.
But also, we're seeing that Cyrano, that's something he clearly doesn't want. Even though he's agreed to help him, it's like reluctantly along the way. He gets deeper and deeper in, and now he's like, oh, now it's getting physical. Like, this is clearly not ending where he keeps this hope up that he'll just keep writing and something will work out. But
So they are moving forward. Their relationship is going really well. And then Roxanne kind of like, she knows that like the army is going to go off to war. What war they're fighting, I have no idea.
So she's very smart, Roxanne, and she played Ben Mendelsohn. Basically, she didn't want Cyrano and...
Well, it's like he was pissed that Cyrano, he embarrassed, Cyrano embarrassed Ben Mendelsohn at some point.
Thing.
Yeah.
Ben Mendelsohn was pissed about the plaything,
right?
And then basically was like, "Okay, well, they're going to all be going off to war."
Well, they're going to be in the front lines,
yeah.
Like, and she was
and
like,
she goes
the best
she's
way.
Smart.
The best way to humiliate him is to leave him behind, to leave
not
this
let him defend
both of them, right?
Yeah.
So she's saving both of their lives,
her best friend and her love.
Correct.
And I believe this would have been the Franco-Spanish War.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Good job.
This was the original Cyrano was. I did look it up. Was set during 1640, which is why I thought it was from a long, long time ago.
Yeah, it's
but
an old story.
It's and it's based on a real guy.
Okay.
And I just Googled French War 1600s
Cyrano,
and it came up Franco-Spanish War 1635 to 1659.
Oh my god!
So,
wow.
Hey.
I mean,
all of a sudden, Afghanistan doesn't look so bad. Am I right? So
no, it's still pretty bad.
We still got Ukraine to hang our hat on, though, right?
That's not. Nope.
Hey, at least this one's not our fault.
That's true.
Yeah,
we are out of this one. Well,
we're not out
for
of
now,
it, but it's not our fault.
That's true. We had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, but so I'm not. As long as that went on, like you almost got to think that that's what.
That makes sense.
That's what they're.
So I love that though. I love that.
She tricks
you
Ben
love
Mendelsohn.
War?
Yeah, no. Warmonger.
Kevin, why would you love war?
Why don't we just sample that piece? That's
that's worse than the time you loved Superman, Man of Steel. Not by much. Not by much.
Not by much. Not by much. But she does. She plays Ben Mendelsohn like a fiddle.
She's delaying because he wants to marry her. She's delaying it as long as possible. And this is great too. And she says the only way to prove that you truly love someone or love me is to go win a war for me.
Yeah, and he's like, got it.
So he's like, I got to go fight for you to love. He's like, see you later. So it is
no
great.
problem.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting in that thing.
But it's funny because in other versions it may be played even more goofily. Like it's a silly premise to say that to someone.
What does Daryl Hannah do on Roxanne at this point? Like, is there like a...
I forget what...
I'm just thinking like there's really no allegory or like comparison to...
Well, he was
Cyrano
a firefighter.
Oh,
So-
she talked to the arsonist and said, "Don't set that fire."
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it was a crossover with Backdraft.
That's
It was a shared universe.
I gotta tell you, I love Backdraft.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's not great, but but I love it.
Let me
It's
set
got
this-
Kurt Russell in it.
It
Of course
does
you
have
love
Kurt
it.
Russell in it. It's
You
got
love the computer war tennis shoes.
Is that Ron Howard?
I think
Backdraft?
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the Baldwins before they went off the rails.
You're gonna have to narrow that down.
That's true.
They
no,
all seem to go off the rails at some point.
that's true. Or well,
I think it's Billy. Is it Billy Baldwin in that one?
which is the one in Biodome?
I think that might be Steven.
Then it's Billy.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's
Billy Baldwin.
Yeah,
too,
yeah. And that's when they were like, he's going to be a star in this movie with Cindy Crawford and the usual. No, that was Steven in The Usual Suspects, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't, man.
Yeah.
My Baldwin.
I think it is Billy
my...
Baldwin. But Backdraft is great. So
Maybe we
yeah,
can do
so
an episode on it sometime.
I would love to.
Keep it in mind.
Happily. So they keep to keep Cyrano and Christian safe. She's like, leave them behind. It's the greatest embarrassment you could give them. And he was like, okay.
So they're going on this whole love letter writing and go through the things that we talked about.
Right.
And then eventually Ben Mendelsohn comes back and he's like,
Does he come back or does he just send the letter with the priest?
I guess he sends a letter. He isn't back yet. You're right.
Yeah, he sends this letter with this priest. And I do kind of like this where the only two that can read it are Cyrano and Roxanne. Like nobody else can read it. Like the priest can't read the letter, which I thought was interesting. And obviously Christian can't because Cyrano has a higher education and he's smarter and wittier, I guess. So she reads the letter first, and it's what we talked about, where he's just like, "You're either going to marry me, and we're going to consummate this thing, or we're going to consummate it without marriage."
It was a gut punch. I mean, to have her reading this letter and being in love, and she's already been forced into this life and marriage she does not want, and then to read that out loud, that we're going to do it one of two ways: either get married.
Well,
or...
she doesn't read it out loud.
No. For her to like, taking it in. Yeah. I just mean for her to be. I think she's reading it.
She's reading it in her head. It's like it's a monologue.
She's narrating it
but,
to us.
Cyrano knows what it says.
Yeah.
Like, so we know what's on that letter.
It's painful.
And so what she reads out loud is her version of that letter, where he's saying that Ben Mendelsohn sent this priest to officiate the marriage of Roxanne and Christian.
Yeah.
And then they get married, and it's not good.
Right.
Like, the relationship was good. And Ben Mendelsohn ends up finding out that she has married Christian, and he's like, "We're going to war,"
Yeah.
and he puts him on the front lines.
You are on the front lines this time,
right? And and
are they there for a long time, or there isn't a time jump on screen at this point, right? But like
the time jumps in this movie are weird because I feel like there's a lot that has been cut out of the story, because it was like it felt like Cyrano wrote one letter for Christian, and then the very next scene he's like, "I got it, you're good, go away." And I'm just like, that's a little quick.
Yeah, there was a time jump in there to be presumed that he had been doing it for a while, because
and I felt like sometimes the storyline felt a little hurried.
I think because it's 2 hours long.
It is
Think
2
about
hours.
I mean, they must have had to cut quite a few things to get the whole thing in.
Totally, and I'm not sitting here like, oh, I wish it was longer. Like I'm glad they kept it at 2 hours, but there were times where I'm just like, well, we got to that really quick.
Sure,
it just it felt like a lot of times in the very next scene, somebody's like, enough of that. This is how I feel now.
This is editing. This is when we talk about an Oscar for best editing and who's included and who deserves it. To make a cohesive story and with the time jumps and everything, maybe tweak a few things, and this would be a little bit better. I agree.
Maybe, yeah, probably not.
Well, if you don't like the whole premise of the thing, no. But
and I thought this is Cyrano. I guess is like he's collecting letters. Is that what I'm understanding? Is he's running from one side of the battlefield to the other?
All the people are writing letters to their loved ones back home, whether it's like husband, father, wife. They're all writing to people that they're never going to see again.
I don't think any of them were writing to husbands.
Probably not.
Oh, that's true.
Or
No, because
not husbands.
I'm back then.
But, yeah, that's
although
true.
they are French.
No, you're right. But there's different
been,
girlfriend, wife,
children,
like that kind of different stories. And Cyrano knows that they may never see them, and because he's all about love, it's his duty to make sure that they get these letters.
Right.
So it's a really noble thing on his.
I gotta tell you, you said duty, and in my head, all I think is
Hero's
Princess
duty?
Vanellope. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what every single time.
That is now
every time I can hear Sarah Silverman's
Duty.
voice saying, "You said duty."
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is that song that you were talking about, where the soldiers are basically saying, like, "You're the last thing I'm going to think of when I'm dying on this battlefield." And you're right. It is
The
a
war
pretty good
scenes
song.
are really well done too, I think, in this. I
don't really think you see anything though, do you?
But the costumes, the sets, the gunfire, the production quality of this film is really good.
It creates the appearance of war without actually showing you a lot of battling.
Yeah. Blood and guts.
Yeah, which is not easy to achieve. So, and I get from a budgetary standpoint, like they couldn't stage major infantry style action.
But I felt like they were at war in the film, right?
Totally,
Yeah, they were in bunkers, and there's explosions on the side and things like that.
The situation felt dire to me as the viewer. I'm watching this and I'm like, crap, they're dead.
Right. And so
this is
Ben
where
Mendelsohn says he's like, I have to send one crew out. So this is again to the time jump, right? So Ben Mendelsohn, who was nowhere near this battlefield, from my interpretation of like where he was,
right? Because he's a big shot,
right?
So
he's nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Typical.
He's more overseeing war.
Correct.
Yeah. He's like a war project manager.
He's an assistant to the general manager.
Right.
Yeah.
he sends their battalion or whatever
Well,
you want to call
it's
it.
a suicide mission, and he has to pick one of these battalions, and of course he picks Cyrano and Christian's battalion.
mainly Christian, because Christian married the woman he was going to.
Right.
I mean, this is total.
And he does he makes a comment. He's like, "This isn't. This is war. Like it's not vindictive or whatever."
But
they get that message real quick.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
in
the
the
time
Bible
of
just-
it, agreed. It's they're
He was like, but it's not like he did it via telegram.
no,
right?
they're trying
He
to
didn't send a
move
text.
the time periods along and make the movie not drag out, whatever. So at this point, Cyrano somehow Christian finds out Cyrano's actually in love
So
with her.
Cyrano, like, he's got one last letter,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Take it," and he starts reading it, and then does he say? I think he says, "Read it," and there's like a tear pock like on the
Right.
ink, and he was
Why
like,
would
"Did
you
you
be
cry
crying if
while you
you're-
wrote?" He's like, "Because I love my work. I'm very self-indulgent. Like I'm a very good at my job, and I made myself cry."
But Christian, is not smart as he's been in some of these situations, he figures that one
Yeah,
out.
he was like, "You love her," and he was like, "All right, yeah, cool."
These have all been your words.
And he was like, I do like the line where he goes, if you make it back, don't be surprised if there's more letters than you originally thought.
Right.
And Christian's like, what do you mean? He's like, how many did you write? 1 or 2 extra? He's like, no.
I know he's like I wasn't just writing her once a week, like 2 times a week. No, 3.
No. Did you write her
5?
every day? He's like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes multiple.
He put it on Front Street. He said he writes a love letter every day.
I mean,
So-
but also, like, I do, I find
subscribes to the 10,000 hour theory of getting good at something. Right? Like
just you're not good until you're not even remotely good until you do 10,000 hours. Of
Right.
it. How many hours have we done this podcast?
Yeah.
apparently 4.
If the theory is to be believed,
Right. So and Christian kind of loses his mind a little bit, and it's
he
I
commits
do.
suicide. He doesn't want to live.
Is
the
that
woman,
what that is?
the-
That what happens?
The woman he loved, he knows that they're all going off to their death in this war. The woman he loves,
Yeah, it's like
is-
suicide by cop.
Oh Jesus!
Well, I mean,
No.
you know,
I get it. But like,
he
he has
runs by himself.
I
he
guess that's
charges
true.
by himself
Yeah.
into a
open fire.
right. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
Did you think he was just fighting war?
I was like, he's just so mad. I'm going to take them all on.
Yeah,
I've
he-
watched enough action movies that like one guy
Yeah.
can take on.
Well, that
15
only
people.
works in action movies, and this is an
No, this is-
inaction movie.
Yes, that's very
this
true.
is the romantic poetry of this story. You know,
Right.
if I don't have love, what do I have to live for? And so he charges out there. He gets shot.
So for listeners, what you have to live for is the next person you fall in love with.
Correct.
Right? Like that's
Hate to break the news to you.
Yes.
There's more than one.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
But the people who loved you would want you to be happy, which means not just wallowing in yourself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not a
No, yeah.
moving on is a natural part.
It's
you know,
okay.
grieving, moving on eventually, and it's not like
That's why wedding vows are till death do you part,
Yeah.
right? Like once they're dead, you can go get you some. That's the
I
upside.
think in 2022 that's how they changed the wording too.
Right.
Because churches are getting more modern and
Yeah,
progressive.
yeah. That's more hip.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Till death do us part, and then feel
you-
free to go get some.
Right.
Go. Yeah. Never mind.
If you're married, once you're married, you have to get married.
Sure.
again.
Yeah.
They
that's-
don't
yeah.
say death to you part, then go get some. No.
You got
Go
to
to
marry another
church,
person.
Get married.
See,
Then you can
that's
go get some.
that's the technicality, right? Because they say no premarital sex, but now you have been married.
I guess that's true.
Huh?
No, there's
Huh?
always a loophole.
I
just
lawyered
ask,
him.
just ask. Well, and then they know all about loopholes of the
Yes.
Catholic Church.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So,
So Cyrano, like he gets
did he get shot too? He gets shot in the
somewhere,
shoulder, in the
but
chest.
but Christian is shot in the heart, like on his
It's
chest.
got like blood on the letter.
and Cyrano's pulling him away off the battlefield, and
And then we flash.
and he
6
says, "Go
weeks.
get you some."
Yeah,
Right.
and he was like,
Uh,
okay. And then we
He
flash.
says it in French, but he's like, tap that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But more eloquently.
But yeah,
because it's
it was-
French.
but yeah,
But it was British French. It wasn't
Right.
French. It was
It was a British guy doing a French accent.
right. He's like, tap that.
oh, there it is. I read an article about that the other day.
Why
People say "hon hon."
Why?
I don't remember.
Why bring it up?
Because I looked it up because I wanted to know if anyone.
Oh, I read an article yesterday about how to end world hunger.
Yeah, how's that?
I don't remember.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, I read this thing about how to instantly stop the war in the Ukraine.
Tell me more.
I cannot, for the life of me, remember what that last paragraph said.
It just it had something to do with the way they pronounce certain syllables, like an N sound. But the point was, I was curious too. Why is that the first impression we
I
go
just
to?
assume, I've always assumed that somewhere like
That's
80
what I
years
think.
ago,
Yep.
there was
Somebody
like
did it.
Somebody did it like a comedian,
Yep.
and then it just kind of stuck. The
Yep.
same way people say "play it again, Sam," even though he never says "play it again,
Right,
Sam,"
right.
or like that was.
I
always
was in the
mine.
same boat. Is like I thought that it.
So according to Quora, who people ask questions and they can pay for answers by experts or whatever, and they said, why do French people say hon, hon, hon when they laugh. That was in quotes.
We apologize to any French listeners. I was really afraid we'd say something to upset people who are little people during this episode, but apparently
It's just our French listeners.
It's a full-out attack on the French.
So we'll just pick Carolyn's answer. She says, I've been a French teacher, and French is my native language. No,
I
that's
also kiss that way.
no, that's a myth, an urban legend. I'm surprised that some people didn't see that it was a joke. People laugh the same way in every language. People say ha ha ha.
Oh, now
he,
she's
he,
taking
he.
it too seriously.
But no human being says hon, hon, hon.
I think we just did.
Yeah.
French people are not yet donkeys, she said.
All right.
So
Okay.
anyway,
So there
but-
really was no answer other than just they don't do it.
They don't
But
do it.
that's the problem. There's a bunch of opinions on it. The article I said had something to do with it, but someone probably made that up too. But
I think 80% of Quora questions are people asking the question so they can answer it.
That's right.
Oh,
I have.
that's
Do
pretty
I have
fun.
the answer for it?
It's always because it's always like it's something hyper specific. Tell me about a time when like a cop pulled you over and then you were like, "Take this," and then the cop was like, "Oh man, you got me."
Have I got
And
an
then there's
answer for
immediate
you?
answer like, "Well, the one time I was driving home and yeah, it's."
I use the.
Like now that you know that, every time you read a Quora, like filter it
I don't even
through
know what
that,
Quora is.
and like you'll be like, "Oh, that's what this guy's doing."
Oh.
This is
Quora is a Ask Jeeves, or it's like a service where other people
like crowdsourcing answers to questions.
I got
What
you.
was the Answers.com was the one that used to be big.
Okay.
Remember Answers.com?
Oh yeah, vaguely.
That was their shtick, and Quora. There's other people that took over the same concept.
Okay. Okay.
But anyway, I went on Reddit, which there's a better
Yeah,
source for
I
it.
know.
But I went on Reddit, and this person says, I live in a French household. Yes, it does kind of sound like that. So, like, the problem with these questions and answers is you get a couple
Yeah.
people. I mean, we've seen different opinions that are
Right.
out there on either side. So,
That's dumb. So we flashed about 6 weeks later.
3 years later.
That's
Yeah.
much better. Yep.
3
Perfect.
years.
And I assume that like since Roxanne's husband died in war,
She can't remarry, I guess, in this time period.
and she
She's
becomes
a widow.
a nun.
That's how I read it. Like, because of this time period, Ben Mendelsohn got her husband killed, and now she can't have love or happiness because he's gone.
Is that?
I don't know if you could remarry
definitely-
in the
I definitely-
60s.
I didn't read it that way. Maybe because people got remarried.
in the 1600s.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of a widow is not new.
But in different countries, I'm thinking the culture.
I don't
is
know
different.
because they definitely made it sound like that she is there for life. Like those other two,
I
like,
took it more as she was just like,
bereft.
it just was like,
Okay.
I don't want nothing more. I mean, I have
Maybe,
nothing to back
maybe,
this up.
that's
I
what
thought
I'm not
Ben
saying-
Mendelsohn's plot, like his plan,
Yeah.
was so evil.
Yeah,
that
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just
Okay.
saying this is how my
Sure.
interpretation was. She was just like, I don't want anything to do with any
Yeah.
this love stuff.
Yeah, it's dumb.
I'm gonna go live with the nuns.
So she either gave up love because how could she love another
Right.
kind of a thing,
Right.
Another romantic gesture.
And Cyrano, I guess, like is a hermit now.
a recluse.
A recluse. Yeah.
He visits her every week, right?
Is it
to talk
visits
to
her? Is that what he's doing, or just visiting the people?
She says she's never. He was going there to see her. I'm
Okay.
sure.
So I guess his injuries were so not bad that they took 2.5 to 3 years for him to die.
Well, I took it as like he was like wasting away. Like he wasn't taking care of himself. Like he had nothing left to live for. So he would
Okay.
just write his letters and then show up and visit once a week and then go back and like
Just do his thing.
yeah.
So that's what
Okay.
he was doing, was writing poetry to make the people feel better. They're in the hospital. Like,
I got
aside from seeing Roxanne, his gig was
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes
go read my
sense.
poetry and feel better. And I'm visiting my friend,
Right.
person I love, which is such a torture for 3 years now. The other guy isn't even in his way, but he still can't be with her. Like that's
Yeah.
what's
Well, it
so
is-
heartbreaking about this story is
Yeah.
it is in a way like Romeo and Juliet, star-crossed lovers. They're just destined for it to never work. And here, there's even more of a chance that it could work. And at every turn, he gets
Well, in every turn, he's refusing to do it.
Yeah, like
He can do it right now. Like
he's brave in every way except when it comes to like
her.
love.
Sure. Yeah.
which is kind of like the last line of the film, which kind of alludes to because
My pride.
he eventually
I loved you more
profuses-
than my. I love. The only thing I loved more than you was my pride,
Right.
Because he couldn't bring himself to be like,
I love you.
"You want to go get some coffee?"
Yeah.
He dies in her arms, and
Well, yeah. So he kind of nudges her, and they're sitting there talking, and he says, you haven't read his last letter yet. Can we do it now? Because I guess he knows he's going to die. And he starts to read it, and he just kind of puts it down, and he starts reciting it. And she says, "You're not reading that." And he was like, "Nope, sure not."
She's like, "It was you.
You're
You
doing that
memorized
from
it.
memory."
You're doing it from memory." And he was like, "Sure am." Yeah. And she's like, "All of that was you." He's like, "Yes, all of that." She figures it out at this point, and then he falls over. And
then as he's dying, she's like, whispers in his ear, "I totally would have."
and he was like,
Well, I was just going to say how sweet and romantic. I really thought that they did a good job executing the story.
I mean, but that's basically what happens,
It is,
right?
I mean,
and he
yes.
was like, "Well, shit."
"Yeah, wait, can I
Maybe
eat,
for 3 years I should have said
can
something.
I eat that
Yeah.
bread? Can I get some of my
Yeah.
strength back a little bit?
What
Just
about
something?"
that soup?
Yeah.
Someone said there was
Somebody
soup?
said soup. And I did think this
She's
was
like,
kind
"We
of a,
would have had medicine, but we got rid of it because it's just the poetry is fixing everybody. We all we
Can
have
you-
around here is poetry.
Can you read your own poetry and make yourself
Does
feel
it work
better?
like that, or is it like tickling yourself? Like
It was
it
thoughts
doesn't
and
work.
prayers.
Yeah.
He did thoughts and prayers. Yeah.
Just real quick, I pulled up the synopsis of the original Cyrano de Bergerac, the play, and it says, for Act 5, 15 years later, at a convent outside Paris, Roxanne now resides here, eternally mourning her beloved Christian. It does not appear that,
But she is at a convent,
yeah.
so she could be a nun.
But I'm just saying, but I don't think it's that she's not allowed to get remarried. She's-
I see.
Because it says she is visited by de Guiche. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, the
douche
douche.
is who that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is now a good friend. And now
Wait, the Ben Mendelsohn character?
that's what they're saying.
Let's see, why wouldn't he remarry her then if they could? It's just
And
so...
now sees Cyrano as an equal and has been promoted to Duke.
Oh,
So Cyrano's like just chilling?
straight chilling. Joe.
Yeah.
Chilling.
It says Lebret and Ragueneau, who has lost his, that was the baker, who has lost his wife in bakery and is now a candle lighter for Moliere.
Candlestick maker?
Did he lose his wife in a bakery accident?
It just says lost his wife and bakery. Maybe they got divorced and she got custody of the bakery. And she expects Cyrano to come by as he always has with news of the outside world. On this day, however, he has been mortally wounded by someone who dropped a huge log. Oh, I dropped a huge log right before we started recording on his head from a tall building.
Oh, so
Like that's
they
That's
totally
way worse.
that's happenstance.
yeah.
So he was just hobbling in there, like Joe said, and he just happened.
Squished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
You
squished.
could get away with anything in plays back then.
Yeah. You
really
like,
could.
what do we do?
Oh,
Like,
no.
we need the actor to be interested. Should we have like a character from Act 1? Just drop
No.
a log on
Can you
his
just
head.
can you just push a rock out of a window?
Yeah.
Sure can.
Why does someone have a log all the way up? I don't know. They just do.
This is some real Aesop's fable poetic stuff.
Yeah.
A boulder came coming down.
Upon arriving to deliver his Gazette to Roxanne, knowing it will be his last, he asks Roxanne if he can read Christian's, quote unquote, farewell letter. She gives it to him, and he reads it aloud. As it grows dark, listening to his voice, she realizes that it is Cyrano who is the author of all the letters, but Cyrano denies this to his death.
And he does. That's the way this ends. Like he
Yeah.
denies it.
Yeah, Ragueneau and Lebret return, telling Roxanne of Cyrano's injury. While Cyrano grows delirious, his friends weep, and Roxanne whispers in his ear, "I totally would have you."
And scene.
It's very French.
It says right here.
Very,
It says-
very French.
And then it says, but she says it in French.
Yeah, right.
So no, it says that she loves him. He combats various foes, half imaginary and half symbolic, conceding that he has lost.
Oh, he's like daydreaming it.
half imaginary and half symbolic. Isn't that full imaginary? Okay.
Yeah, is one of them a log? Conceding that he has lost all but one important thing, his panache,
Oh,
as he dies in Lebret and Ragueneau's arms.
Which this is the story that originated the term panache or panache.
oh, for real?
This is the first time it's ever been used.
Really?
I do remember that one. Don't you fact check it. I'm
The
100%.
word panache is clickable here.
Okay.
And it says,
First.
is a word of French origin that carries the connotation of flamboyant manner and reckless courage, derived from the helmet plume worn by cavalrymen in the early modern period. It is the literal translation of plume, such as is worn on a hat or helmet. The reference is to King Henry IV of France,
Damn it, Cora.
a pleasure-loving and cynical military leader famed for wearing a striking white plume in his helmet and for his war cry, "Follow my white plume," which in French would be "Rallez-vous à mon panache blanc."
Wow. Holy cow.
That was pretty good.
Okay.
That was pretty good.
Well, I did read in my show prep for today that this was the first time that someone used it. So, you know what? Don't believe anything you read.
That's right. Don't
Hang
believe
on.
anything. Oh,
Throwing out a lifeline here.
okay.
Please.
The first entry, that's the initial description
Yeah.
in Wikipedia. The very first entry says, Cyrano de Bergerac, the epitome of panache and the reason for its establishment as a virtue are found in Edmond Rostand's depiction of Cyrano de Bergerac in his 1897
Look
play
at
of that
you,
name.
Kevin. Look at you.
So it established the word. It
Like uses it in that context.
Yeah.
And prior to Rostand, panache was not necessarily a good thing and was seen by some as a suspect quality.
so it
flamboyant.
popularized the term and word. Okay, because I'm pretty sure I read. I don't have the quote on me, but okay. Thank you, Tom.
But yeah, I guess it was considered to be like showy. And like that
yeah.
was arrogant and embarrassing. And
Cyrano owned it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it says panache is referred to explicitly at 2 points in the play, but is implicit throughout. Cyrano's challenges to Montfleury, Valvert, and at one point the whole audience at the theater, and his nonchalant surrender of a month's salary to pay for the damages, his duel with 100 footpads at the Porte de Nesle in Act 2, which I believe was when he gets ambushed in the alley.
This is good because in the real story it's 100. In the movie it's 10, but he says 100. Okay, more like 10. Like I love they address the real text. Yeah.
As well as his dismissal of the exploit when talking to Roxanne. I've been much braver since then. His crossing the Spanish lines daily to deliver Roxanne's letters, and his leaving his deathbed to keep his appointment with her in Act 5. The explicit references bring in the double entendre.
Oh.
Double entendre.
Yes.
Good
so,
Lord.
but yeah, so like I guess up till then it was kind of not a good quality,
And now it is
and
kind of.
boom.
now it is.
Yeah,
now
now it is.
I mean, now that's kind of the scene you want in a movie, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
your hero kind of shows everybody up.
It's the Jack Reacher moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his whole character is that, right?
Mhm.
Like he's the
I
smartest
got to tell
guy.
you, did you watch that show?
I did.
That was good.
Yeah,
Very
it was
good.
it was very well done.
It's
It-
very different.
yeah.
Yeah. From
I mean, it's what the movie should have been.
Correct.
And they had flashes of it, but
yeah.
but
That dude's a beast.
yeah.
Good Lord. That, yeah.
He's what the description should have been when it was
when
Tom
you,
Cruise.
When you
it was,
read the description of Jack Reacher, it's
If
like,
you read
oh,
the
it's
books,
this guy.
That's exactly what they described.
and we
A Hulk of a
discussed
man.
that when the movies came
Yeah.
out. We talked about how the description didn't match and all that. And, he did a fine job in that first one. But this is the guy that they're like, we're not making that mistake again. He will be right off
He
the
is
page.
a monster of a man.
I think it also makes sense that they did it that way because they went to, if for no other reason, to go a completely different direction
Yeah.
from the films.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially since the films really didn't work. The first
Well,
one
the first
was
one,
like,
I think, was
first
was a
decent.
moderate success, and then the second one you can tell they shaved the budget because it was basically just him in a hotel room plotting something.
so that's the end of this movie. He
Yes.
dies.
He dies,
And she's sad.
I think it was really effective, though. I don't know. I like Romeo and Juliet. I like the romantic films
You
like
can't
that.
wait for Elvis, can you?
I don't know. I like Baz Luhrmann, but
I
I'm not
know.
a big Elvis guy, so it's going to be kind of like, I'm not going to have anything to really base it on because I didn't watch a lot of Elvis movies or,
Yeah.
follow his music. Like growing up, that wasn't a big thing. But no, I liked the way that this story went. Like I thought it was a really good interpretation of the story. I think the performances were great, and I enjoyed watching it. The music is not memorable, but it got me through the story beats to where I'm like, okay, like I'm enjoying it. And the ending affected me. Like I felt terrible of, they missed each other at all these. Not saying he handled it the best, but they kept missing each other. It was heartbreaking, and
Yeah, I feel like we're all at different points.
Which
like,
tends
you
to happen.
hated it,
Yeah.
you liked it a lot, and I was like, meh.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't love it, but I really did enjoy it. Like I didn't think, wow, I can't wait to watch it again. But at the end of the movie, I'm like, that was a good like I liked it.
Yeah,
A one time.
there were definitely things to like in this movie, but yeah, to me the biggest flaw were the songs. Like but some people love that band, so like maybe I'm the odd man out.
But I think maybe if you love the band, you'll have a little bias and you may enjoy it more. But
Yeah.
I don't know, as someone that loves musicals and watches a lot of them, I was thinking, man, if I were going to introduce a non-musical person to a musical, I would never use this one because it's not. They would watch and go, "Yeah, I hate musicals." That's exactly.
That's exactly what I thought.
And that's where it fails. When you have a really good musical, you bring people in that don't care for or don't think about musicals,
Right.
and they watch it and they go, "That was good."
Yeah.
That's what you want. And so this one doesn't hit the mark, and it's because of the music in the musical. So
Yeah.
it's a huge factor in
Yeah.
the quality.
So
But-
This sucked.
But do they deserve like performance accolades, Peter Dinklage?
absolutely.
And I don't think he got nominated at the Oscars, which
Oh,
was
really?
which was
man, are you even going to watch those?
I don't
not.
care about them.
I
But
don't
I mean,
care.
but the fact is, like, he puts in such a good performance that if he were nominated for Best Actor, I think I would say that's cool.
Yeah.
I have no interest in that award show whatsoever.
No, I'll watch the results, but
I just everything I read who won
Yeah.
what the next day, but
that's the thing that kind of frustrates me online is they keep making all these stupid decisions, and then people are voicing their very, I think, right opinions about like why are they taking this away from the awards to get more stupid jokes, and then other people are like, yeah, you're all stupid. The same people complaining are going to watch it. I'm like, I have no interest in watching it.
I'm not watching it.
It's not true. The people complaining aren't like, you're making people that did care not care at all.
yeah.
They will just find the results. Why would they spend 3 hours to watch skits when
good.
they want to hear the guy that poured his whole life and soul into whatever it is, cinematography, best score, and then he wins the award? They're there for that.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think the average viewer cares about cinematography in
No,
any way.
not
shape,
the
or form.
average viewer. No.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They're doing this to try to get in people that don't normally care, and then they're alienating the people that do.
Yeah.
Those are the people.
I think the biggest problem with the reason ratings decline is the movies that they give awards to aren't the movies that make money.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly it.
It used to be the Oscars were the biggest, were also the biggest hit movies of the year.
Right.
And now they're not. And so it's not the movie stars that are going to the Oscars anymore, and that's what drew the eyes. And I'm not saying that you should ignore the smaller movies to make sure that Spider-Man wins Best Picture, although I think this year you could make the argument that Spider-Man should win Best Picture.
Yeah.
But because of that, like if you think about it, the last Oscars where they just had crazy huge ratings was the year Titanic won.
I was gonna say that had to be the year, right?
Yeah, and so they don't nominate big hit movies, but big hit movies typically aren't the best movies out there
No.
either, and they used to be.
They
and
come
that Venn
inside-
diagram has completely separated.
Forrest Gump, all that stuff.
They do come back around and coincide every once in a while, like Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Right.
That was obviously a tremendously popular and huge movie, but quality-wise, on a technical
and
level.
now Jeff Bezos says, "I'm gonna make it."
But you know what? Another one is Dune this year.
Yeah.
Dune is the popular movie that surpassed. It's not.
But I don't feel like Dune has the level of passion out there that like Lord of the Rings did.
It doesn't have the level, but Dune was. Think of the original Dune, which made no money because no one cared about the story. They attached stars.
Right,
They
sure.
put Timothée Chalamet. They put Zendaya. They put Javier
Dave
Bardem.
Bautista.
They put Batista in there, right? So that was star power, why you get 20 floating heads on the poster.
Right.
And it was a phenomenal film.
Yeah.
It was a big film with star power, and it's technically really excellent. So Dune got the nominations, and if it wins a lot, I think that's going to be the closest that we'll get
Warner
for a
Bros.
while.
is actually gonna greenlight Dune 2.
They
No.
they did.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table, and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can follow the show online at Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and also don't forget our Patreon, Patreon.com/Real Spoilers. So I guess you can check us out next week when we'll be covering Turning Red.
Great.
I think the screener's in my inbox tomorrow. Did you get
Yeah,
that
I'll
email?
do- live
I'll do a
tomorrow.
Patreon episode on the Batman.
Okay. That's a good trade. Yeah. So anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Kathleen is Put Out of Business by Joe Fox.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we already warned you.